Hello and welcome, everybody. This is the section where we're going to be talking about getting started with Microsoft Graph. The one-stop shop that you need to know for everything for this will be graph.microsoft.com. We'll be showing you a couple different tools and different areas that you can use to get started with this. First things first, we'll kick off with some of the SDKs and documentation. Fabian, take it away.
Absolutely. So as Brian mentioned, the first place you want to go is graph.microsoft.com. So that's what I just put in the browser and clicked. And ideally, if you're getting started with the Microsoft Graph, Docs is where you want to begin, right? You got to learn about what the landscape looks like. So by clicking on the Docs icon right here and going down to particularly guides, this is a great place to start. It really gives you an overview of what Microsoft Graph is all about. I like to term this image right here as a blueprint because it really showcases some of the experiences and how you can build with the graph. First thing, you can certainly build inside your own experiences. So if you're bringing things to the table, you want to leverage a Microsoft Graph in your ecosystem, brilliant, it's there for you. However, you can also extend the Microsoft Graph experience and build inside where we have on the Microsoft Graph in terms of the workloads for SharePoint, the workloads for Office, and so on and so forth. And beneath that, understand that the Microsoft Graph has data for all your data, all your services that you're consuming in M360, Microsoft 365, and also external data that you can port in, and also in the case of Microsoft Graph Data Connect, NGDC, data that you're pushing out as well. So that's a great place to start. Underneath that, it talks about the platform, what is the graph? And this image is really one that I love talking about, because Microsoft Graph really centers around the user, whether it's the user doing their own activity or their user working or interacting with people ad hoc or working in a more hierarchical fashion. And there's a great video to supplement that as well. So notwithstanding that, the next place to go, and I'm going to go back to graph.microsoft.com again, is the API reference. I love the API reference. Even today, after using Microsoft Graph many, many years, I love coming here because it really, things change and things evolve. So it's always good to come back here to see what's released. And in terms of the release cadence, the API has a v.1 endpoint, but it also has a beta endpoint as well. And what you see may be different. Of course, we encourage you to build in the v1 endpoint. But if you wanted to type something, let's say like Teams. I'm always working in Microsoft Teams and doing list join, list of teams that I'm joined. This gives you a wealth of information. It talks about the permissions that you need, so you know whether you're working in an interactive or delegated mode concept, or if you're running like a daemon application, something that's running under the service and you need app permissions. It gives you an example also of the request that you've been making, the HTTP verbs, and whether it's a get, a post, a put, a patch. It also gives you the fact whether or not you can support it with OData queries. So whether you can do, query filter, query sort, and the like. If you're working inside, as you'll hear about when Brian comes on, talk about Graph Explorer or versus, something like a Fiddler or a Postman, you may need to supply your headers as well. Tells you whether or not the HTTP verb talks about a request body and an example of the response and what you should see. So by coming here under the docs, it really gives you that information. Let me move over now, again, going back to graph.microsoft.com and now going down to getting started and clicking all. Here, basically, we're meeting you wherever you are. So whether you are a .NET developer, a Python developer, JavaScript developer, so on and so forth, Microsoft Graph has an SDK that will allow you to build in your own language. One of the things that I really like is this ability to actually have a quick start. So immediately you can go from 0 to hero quite immediately. I'm going to go ahead and actually click Build an App. And all you need to do is identify the language that you want to build in. So I'm going to click ASP.NET-MVC. And you can see it even tells you if you don't have Visual Studio, you can go ahead and download the Community Edition or the Enterprise Edition. But once you've done that and click Get App ID and App Secret, that's all you really need. I'm going to go ahead and here it has my name for the tenant that I'm going to be tied to. I'm going to click Sign In real quickly. And once I do this here, you can actually see that it has an ID and token that is going to provide me, that's going to give me all the permissions, let's spin right, all the permissions that I need in order to get to the Microsoft Graph. Then I can actually click download the SDK code sample, and I'm on my way. Brian, take it away.
So it's great if you want to be able to get started with your code and see things kind of from the quick start perspective. But a lot of times people tell us that they want to be able to actually do this in the browser. Maybe I don't want to fire up Visual Studio or other kind of platforms. And for this, we have Microsoft Graph Explorer. You can get to this in the show notes. We'll have a link to this, aka.ms/GE. And what's great about this is, we'll show on my screen on here, I can come into Graph Explorer. If you have your own demo tenant, great. I can be able to go and log in with this user. You'll see that I'm actually logged in with one of my demo users. And I've got my sample query on here, just simple graph.microsoft.com/v1 and go into the me endpoint. And when I run this, I'm actually getting back live data for the logged in user. So I can actually go and see what does that payload look like from the actual request and from the response. I want to take a look at any of the request headers on here. Also as well for the response on this, I can see the sample JSON that's coming back from it, response headers, or even be able to go and take a look at what do the code snippet look like if I wanted to actually code this into my environment. So I can see what this looks like inside of C#, JavaScript, Java, Objective-C, and we're adding more and more as we go along. There's also additional components if you're looking for things like Microsoft Graph Toolkit, how to embed this into a web experience, or even adaptive cards if you're doing things inside of Microsoft Teams or other areas. On the left-hand side, you can see a lot of different sample queries that we have on here for getting started, work with applications, Excel, extension, groups, and so forth. So lots of great ways to be able to go and work with that data directly in your browser and be able to mock things out. Now, separate from doing things in the browser, another thing that we do make available is our Graph Explorer collection in Postman. And this is a great scenario where you want to be able to bring your own authentication, or you want to be able to modify some additional things, run some tests and so forth. And so for this, we do provide a Graph connector collection. You can see that we have things for our delegated requests, we have things for our application requests, and we even build into this ways to go and get your access token for this. So a lot of the same queries that we saw inside of Graph Explorer, we can also do inside of Postman and be able to actually pull that data up and simulate what the queries are for this. So this is kind of a quick ramp up for you, but really appreciate your time. Hopefully you're able to learn a couple of new things you can learn to be able to work with Microsoft Graph, Graph Explorer, the docs, the SDKs, Postman, and a lot of other great areas. So thank you for your time, and we'll see you later.